Hello Joblers, welcome back to another Joblin tutorial. Today we're going to be learning about animating and keyframing within Blender. So in the last video you now know how to pose and the general use of bones and rigging, which is great, and now we're going to apply that and we're going to make a really simple animation. So there's a few things you need to know beforehand. 3D animating is very different to 2D animation. So with 2D animation, where you obviously have to render every frame, 3D animation works slightly different, where you have a beginning frame and an end frame. The 3D model actually interprets the movement and it gets to where it needs to go, and there doesn't need to be any in-betweens. That might sound a bit complicated, but we're going to get into that and I'm going to explain that a bit better. So to start, you're going to want to make sure you're in pose mode, and you're going to see at the bottom, you're going to have a drop-down menu. You want to pull that up. This is your animation timeline. This is what you're going to be using to set your keyframes, and you're going to be moving between different animation states. So, with keyframing, you can have a keyframe for each individual bone. So if you wanted to lift the wrist up, that's its own individual keyframe. And then if I wanted to then move this one afterwards, I could set a keyframe for this. So essentially each bone can have its own keyframe and own animation sequence. So you can move around each body part at your own pace. So to start, we want a neutral pose. So this is the neutral pose I've got 2D in, our 3D model. So I'm just going to press Shift S, which is the hotkey for adding a keyframe. Click on the bone that you wish to have as your first movement and press S. And that's now, as you see, made a keyframe right there. So I'm now going to move onto I'm going to move along the timeline and I'm going to go to the 8th frame. So by the 8th frame, I want this hand to go up like this. And I'm now going to press S. So as you can see now, if I go back in the timeline, you see the in-between, that model is automatically moving its arm up, which saves a lot of time in hindsight. So then next, I want 2D to extend the arm out, so I'm then going to move to 16 frames. The time between each frame, that is completely up for you to decide, but obviously the longer the time in between frames is going to be how longer that animation is. So as you can see, this is a rather quick animation. If I click and drag this keyframe to, let's say this takes 108 frames, you're going to see that that takes way longer to get up. So that's why you can just click and drag and you can change the pace of it. It's so easy that way. Cool. So once the arm is raised, I then want him to wave his hand. So we're then going to move to 36 frames. We're going to rotate that. I'm going to press S to have that all channels. So he's waved there. Move that to the right. Press S. Move back move back there to a neutral pose. Press S. That to there. S. And then let's move that back to the center and press S. Okay, let's take a look at the animation. So there you go. So that's a basic wave. So essentially each bone has its own properties, it has its own keyframes. So when you click, as you see, if I click on the shoulder, all the keyframes I've just had have disappeared because the keyframes are set to this specific bone. And obviously if I click back on the bone, then the keyframes I had are going to be there. This is just there to avoid kind of everything getting really clunky and, sorry, for there to be, not get overloaded and not be too many keyframes for one individual model. So having it per limb is actually really helpful. And there we go.